You may not believe in conspiracy theories, neither do I. But some things are way too suspicious to be calling it just a mere coincidence. After hearing the shifty death, you may begin to question if secret agencies were involved in the death of some political figures or even celebrities. Number 5. Karen Silkwood. Karen Silkwood was a worker at Kerr-McGee, a nuclear fuel plant situated in Oklahoma. Her job was to make plutonium pellets for nuclear reactors. She was also involved in the labor union and would speak out against corporate practices related to health and safety in nuclear facilities. However, her mysterious death is what received main news coverage after she was part in a devastating car crash. That day, Karen had tested positive for plutonium contamination. She wanted to go public about it. She had gathered a significant amount of evidence about the poor working conditions of the power plant and had contacted David Burnham, who worked for the New York Times in 1974. On her way to meet the reporter, she got into a brutal car accident in which she died in. Evidence that would support any foul play just disappeared. Drugs were found in her car and more than twice the amount in her blood level. However, dents and rubber were apparent on the back bumper of her car, which revealed that maybe a second car was involved, as if someone had tried to push her off the road. Oklahoma State Highway 74 to be exact. Number 4. Danny Casolaro was a freelance journalist who mainly focused on government conspiracy. He was found dead at a Sheraton Hotel in West Virginia. He was seen as an investigator of truth, and before he died, Danny had a project that was focusing on a conspiracy theory that tied all the way to the President of the United States. Casolaro was on his way to meet with a computer expert, Michael Ricciato. Mike was involved in a modification of Promi, a computer program that had secret backdoor used to track individuals. In this case, the program was used to spy on other countries. A week after meeting him, Mike was murdered. His wife would receive several threats via phone calls, with one chilling message: "I will cut his body and throw it to the sharks." This did not stop Danny on continuing his investigation. Danny was to meet with a source in Martinsburg and return that day, but instead his body was found in a bathtub with 10 to 12 slashes on his wrist. His death was ruled as suicide. The strange part was during his funeral, where a highly decorated military officer showed up in a limousine and placed a medal in his casket and just left. Number 3. Frank Rudolph Olson was an American bacteriologist/biological warfare scientist and worked for the CIA. He was also recruited to Camp Detrick and also worked for the U.S. Army Biological Warfare Laboratories in order to produce top-secret bioweapons for the U.S. It was a week before Thanksgiving in 1953 that Olson witnessed a CIA agent spike a bottle with LSD. The CIA, who at the time were performing several experiments to benefit their ultra-secret project, MKUltra, used LSD on victims. The properties of the drug was not very well known, but it was thought to delete memory for those who took it. According to his wife, Olson was having second thoughts about joining the CIA and had planned to leave. He became extremely paranoid and had suffered from a nervous breakdown. The secret agency had sent him to a physician in New York City who recommended that he be placed in a mental institute. The physician was one of the researchers who helped the CIA uncover the effect of the drug. The day of his death, it was discovered that Olson was given LSD without his consent before he finally ejected himself from the 10th floor's window. He could have had a very bad trip on the drug, and maybe he had suicidal thoughts. But one witness, who was the building operator, overheard a conversation at the time from a guy saying, "He's gone, that's too bad." Number 2. Dag Hammarskjöld was a United Nations Secretary General from 1953 until his death in 1961. The Swedish diplomat was apparently great enough to be noticed by US President J.F. Kennedy. Kennedy regarded Dag as the greatest statesman of the century. He even received a Nobel Peace Prize for his work with the UN. In 1960, Republic of the Congo was going through a period of political turmoil. A peacekeeping operation was launched. Dag, who was in charge, refused to use the troop to help the Belgian government, who was stationed in Leopoldsville in Congo. Few countries such as the USA, United Kingdom, and Belgium were unhappy about that. September 18, 1961, Hammarskjöld was heading to Congo to end the civil war. On his way there, his plane suddenly crashed, His crash could have just been a mere coincidence and nothing more than just a piloting error, but suppressed evidence suggests that the crashing to be more than just a coincidence. First, authorities were on the scene of the crash before they supposedly found it. The plane was caught on fire and all the other people on the plane were burned so badly that they couldn't be recognized. But yet, Dag Hammarskjöld's body was the only one that was not burnt. Bullets were also found in the bodies of his bodyguards, including one in his forehead. Number 1. Gareth Williams. The Welsh mathematician was an employee for MI6. For viewers who are not familiar with MI6, it's a British intelligence service that was formed in 1909. It provides foreign intel to the British government as they work closely with them. Gareth Williams, who was on his way to earning his PhD, dropped out as soon as he was offered a job with MI6 in 2001 as a codebreaker. He worked for them for a decade and was due to transfer to another agency, but unfortunately a week before he was transferred, his body was found inside a red zip-top sports bag placed inside a bathtub. When the body was first found, authorities claimed that someone had done this to him, but then in 2013 they changed their mind and said that he had zipped himself up inside the sports bag. Now we all know that this isn't possible, but somehow they try to make it believable. Experts tried to zip themselves up in a bag in an attempt to prove that this is in fact possible, but have failed countless times. Let's say he was able to zip himself up, dead, inside a sports bag. Wouldn't there be any traces of his DNA? To answer that, there wasn't any single trace of DNA left in a zipper or even in a bathtub.